Wendell Carter Jr. is going nowhere as the big man has just been extended on a 3-year, $59 million deal to stay with the Orlando Magic through 2028-2029. We're going to get into the specifics of the deal, why he ended up staying with the Orlando Magic long term, and all the news that I've missed in between Media Day and the Orlando Magic's first preseason game, which took place against the Pelicans last night. But first, one more bit of housekeeping before I get into the actual contents of this video. Guys, the weather is no joke right now. If you're watching in Orlando, make sure that you are staying safe. I know that it is a very important time for a lot of people, especially with the weather that has been going on. But guys, make sure that you continue to stay safe and take the necessary precautions, because that is really what truly matters right now. Okay. So let's get into the more fun stuff, the basketball stuff that has been occurring over the last handful of days since everything has restarted back up at the beginning of October. Okay, so the report comes in. Wendell Carter Jr., 3-year extension with the Orlando Magic. The 25-year-old is going to be paid just a tick under $20 million per year. So obviously a team-friendly-ish contract, I would say, and he is set to earn $82 million for the rest of his contract, for the rest of the deal, because he also has 2 years remaining on his current deal that he signed in 2021. And obviously the Orlando Magic are very happy to keep him, and he is going to be a part of their plans going forward. And in the long term, this is kind of signaling a couple of things. The first being Jeff Weltman and pretty much the entire front office had shown this in their actions. They wanted to keep the band together. They wanted to keep the cast and crew around for at least another year and potentially for future years, and that is exactly what they're doing when they re-sign a guy like Wendell Carter Jr. I think that's pretty obvious. They have said that they wanted to do that. And then also, they're doing this on a very team-friendly deals, and it is allowing a lot of flexibility. Now I wanted to get into kind of some of the concerns. Magic, they got a plan in place, and Wendell Carter Jr. is now set for even more lives, further than just this one that he is living right now. He is set for plenty of generations to come. Now, here comes the bit of concerns. I really thought he was going to get traded. I will eat the crow right now and say I really thought, and I was banging my fist, I was like, he's gone. There's no way he's going to be here at the start of the season, or he's gone at the trade deadline. Now that he just recently signed this deal, the Magic had until October 10th. They signed him on October 7th. So that means that he does not make the trade deadline, if that makes sense. The trade deadline is February 6th, 2025, so he will not be on the team or signed, this extension long enough to then be eligible to get traded at the deadline. So he will, at the very least, be here post deadline, so then into next off season. So I will eat the crow there, but while this does offer financial flexibility, it does not offer as much trade flexibility as one might think. And obviously, I think Wendell Carter Jr.'s camp knew this. They heard everything about the Pelicans being interested in the offseason, and they said, hey, look, we're going to make sure that if you want to stay in here and you're going to get paid, we're going to make sure that this team doesn't do anything to avert any of those or abort any of those plans. And that's exactly what they did. So hats off certainly to that camp, but he is not going to get traded in the next calendar year. Now, the other thing that was super concerning with Wendell Carter Jr. was his injuries. And for the most part, you can kind of say, hey, look, that's really the only bit of concern is the injuries for Wendell Carter Jr. He's kind of averaging pretty good numbers so far. He's always been a pretty decent shooter, especially from the outside, and he's always been relatively efficient. He's also only 25 years old, and this entire deal brings him to about his 30th birthday. But it's strictly just the games played right now. And he didn't look like himself last year, and unfortunately, last night against the Pelicans, he sprained his left ankle. Now, this is not exactly the best news that you would like to hear after you re-signed a guy for almost $20 million per year, but it's the reality of the situation. Wendell Carter Jr. is injury prone, and he is injured currently as it stands on Tuesday, October 8th, 2024, and we will see if he will be ready by the first game of the year. I think he will. It's just a sprain, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Now, a couple of the players certainly said stuff about Wendell Carter Jr. and confidence with him. So that's always a nice thing to see. Paolo Banchero said, you hate to see anybody get hurt, especially a starter, a big part of the team. I told him, sit out the rest of the preseason. We're going to need you game one. Now, I don't know about that. I don't know who even on this team is exempt from the preseason, and maybe Wendell Carter Jr. would like to get his feet under him before he goes out there and plays in the first preseason game, but they know the shape that these players are in. Who knows? I mean, maybe J.I. would be exempt, but he gained 30 pounds in the offseason, so he might want to play right now. Maybe Franz, right? But he's got to get his shot right before the season starts. Maybe Paolo would be the only guy. I mean, I would be okay if he sat, but I know he's hungry. I don't think he would sit, and he didn't sit last night. So there you have it. I don't really know how many players are going to sit, but Wendell Carter Jr. might be one of those because he is injured. We will see what happens in the future games. I'll get into the rest of this preseason schedule at the very end here. I think it's important. But Weltman also said that about Banchero and Wendell Carter Jr. They have an amazing relationship with each other. You can't predict chemistry. You can just bring good people in and hope they develop it themselves. These guys that takes work on their part, and they've really put a lot of time into that. Obviously, Weltman is going to be praising his guy, so that makes sense. He's just invested plenty of money into him, and you don't want him to, bash him, especially after he just got hurt and just signed a new deal. Weltman's been pretty busy over the past handful of days, obviously with the Wendell Carter Jr. signing. Time is ticking on the Suggs extension. I know everybody's looking to see that. The deadline for that is October 21st, and he recently just picked up the options for the young guys plus Paolo. So Howard, Anthony Black, and Paolo all got picked up. But and none of that is surprising news. But he's certainly been busy. He said that in the offseason that was kind of looking to build through the draft and take it slow, continue to take it slow, continue to keep the pieces around. That's exactly what he's doing. Did say something at media day about, hey, I would be open to a blockbuster trade. It's not going to involve Wendell Carter Jr. now, so we do know that. All right. One more thing about Wendell Carter Jr. is he has a team option in that final year, so that does add a little bit of flexibility. So I will say, overall, grading this contract gets a couple thumbs up. Did think he was going to get traded, but here we are. He's not a bad player. Just got to stay healthy, and it's unfortunate that he sprains his ankle the same night that he signs that contract. Okay, let's get into what happened in the preseason game against the Pelicans. Well, let me start off by saying, your first preseason game certainly does not define your season, especially if none of your best players get hurt. I'm not going to put Wendell Carter Jr. in that category right now, unless Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner or anybody like that, God forbid, got hurt in the preseason. Your season's not done in the preseason. But a lot of people were saying that after the Magic had 22 turnovers against the Pelicans. It looked ugly. It looked sloppy. I would have liked to see a little bit more from a handful of guys. But the fact of the matter is, a 2-point loss in the first week of October, on the first game of the year, isn't going to do anything to this team long term. Now, Banchero looked pretty sharp. He had 15 points, 5 of 7 shooting. That is something that is really nice to see. Franz Wagner, 0 for 2 from 3, 2 for 8 from the field, still ended up with 8 points. That's kind of the classic Franz game in a sense that we've kind of become accustomed to. Suggs ended with 2 assists, 11 points. He certainly had a lot of opportunities to run the offense. Would have liked to see a little bit of more facilitating, but we ended up seeing that from Anthony Black. He had 4 assists on the game, and that was something that was really promising. He ended up playing 23 minutes, and he probably looked, efficiency-wise, like one of the better players on the team. So that was super promising, especially after he had his own injury in the summer league. So it was nice to see him bounce back. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope just trying to find his way. Couldn't really do too much of that, but for the most part, this team kind of looked really good. Tristan da Silva was a little bit away from the ball a lot of the time. He only ended up with 3 points, but still, everybody looked pretty sharp. And Cole Anthony went out there, got 11 points, didn't make a 3, but got 11 points. Still played pretty well. For everybody in this entire box score, looked about what you would maybe predict. So nothing too surprising. Anthony Black, certainly the story there about how well he ended up playing in the game. Now, there was also kind of this feeling around some of the Exhibit 10 players. Here's the box score from the game that left people, clamoring for some people. I made a video on Mac McClung earlier this, in this part of the training camp window, and a lot of people want to see him get signed. He might be the Exhibit 10 player that ends up making it on one of our 2 remaining two-way roster spots, or it could be Jarrett Culver, Jalen Slauson, Javonte Smart, or Ethan Thompson. There's a lot of different guys that are up in the air. None of those guys really got any run during the preseason game, and I know they're going to potentially get more run in the future, but certainly something to watch. But as of right now, there's no real guy who has stuck out because we haven't seen them on the court in the preseason. The Magic will play their next preseason game against the San Antonio Spurs tomorrow. That is in San Antonio, but the next game is on Friday in Orlando against the Pelicans again. We will see if that game remains where it's at. Everything should be clear by Friday, but I could definitely see something potentially changing. If nothing changes, that is obviously what they're going to do. They have a full week after that until they play their next preseason game against the Philadelphia 76ers the following Friday on October 18th. That will be something that is very interesting, something that we will keep an eye on. But guys, let me know what you think about the Wendell Carter Jr. contract extension, what you thought about the preseason, and just general thoughts about the Orlando Magic and how they have started this year off. Guys, that's all the time that I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I will see you guys next time with some more Orlando Magic basketball content.